Am I the asshole for reminding my ex I'm only responsible for our children and not all of his kids?
My ex-husband, 40M, and I, 35F, have 2 children together, 12, 11M.
We divorced about 10 years ago now because I feel like he regressed as a husband and a father during my second pregnancy, and he was even worse when our younger son was born. He was acting like a high school or college kid or a single 20-something with no kids. He spent more time with friends than with us.
His friends were also treating me more like his mom and expecting me to pick him up from their houses when they needed to get on with stuff. He fought for 50% custody of our kids, which he wasn't given, and for the first 2 or 3 years he had every other weekend and a 2-week period during the summer with them, as well as alternating holidays.
He started being more involved, and eventually he did get 50% custody.
It was at that time I found out he got some woman pregnant, and he realized with 3 kids he needed to get his act together.
He ended up with full custody of his 3rd child.
Then he met his wife.
They have 2 more children together now.
There are 2 kids in her life, but I don't believe they're her biological children anyway, who she is also partially supporting.
Those 2 kids don't live with them, but apparently they pay for stuff for this child. Ex and I started getting along better, but then his marriage was rocky. As his marriage worsened, he started treating me like a co-parent to all his kids. He'd bring his other children to custody exchanges and expecting interactions between me and his other children. Then it was requests to babysit for him and his wife, which I never did.
Then it was comments about our boys' old clothes at my house being sent to his house for his other kids and how we needed to make sure they had adequate clothing.
I told him there was no we in that, and he said of course there is, we're co-parents. I said of our 2 sure, but not his other kids. It was requests for me to have his children in my home or to take them out to eat with me and our kids. And finally it has turned into back-to-school craziness. I bought supplies for the boys and he told me I hadn't bought nearly enough for everyone. I was like, hold up, what's that supposed to mean? And he pointed out that what I bought wouldn't be possible to share evenly between all 5 children. I told him we don't have 5 children, we have 2, the 2 I bought those for. I told him I'm responsible for our children, not his 3 others. I told him he has a wife. They share 2 of those children, the other is in their home, so it's up to them.
He told me that I know they don't have a lot of money, and I cut him off and told him that still didn't make his children my problem. He said I can't possibly take care of just 2 of them, not when we're co-parenting and all 5 kids live together 50% of the time. He said I should be a part of the community to help raise these kids, and keeping my distance like I do is so dang cold.
Am I the asshole?
Not the asshole, obviously.
Curious to how your boys find it at his house.
With his entitled attitude, he is clearly a shitty role model.
I'm sure it won't be long until the kids wise up and want to stay with you full time.
They're nearly at the age where most places will take their choice as a major deciding factor.
AITA. Keep record of the conversation and regain full custody of the kids if he can't take care of them. Not your kids, not your problem. Not the asshole.
How could you ever think you might be? Good thing you dumped that freeloader a long time ago. I'm sorry you still have to deal with him. Maybe you can try and revert the decision about the 50% custody, if he clearly admits he doesn't have the finances to take care of all 5 of his kids.
I would tell him, if you expect me to provide financially for your other children, you will need to get a court order directing me to do so.
Until then, I will provide for my children only.
You made the choice to have more children with a different mother. I did not. Not the asshole.
He told me that I know they don't have a lot of money. Why did he have 5 children, then?
Good news are that this will be over in 7 years. It's not endless shit show. Am I the asshole my boyfriend didn't see me?
Yesterday we went to go see a movie.
I had forgotten my phone, and communicated that to my boyfriend on the drive there.
He asked me if I would be okay without it, and I said yes. After the movie I told him I had to use the restroom. When I got out, I walked outside. He usually waits out by the entrance.
But he wasn't there. I waited a few minutes, but I couldn't call him, and he had the car key. I tried walking to the car, but he wasn't there. I went back in and checked near the men's restroom, but nothing.
After about 10 minutes I got pretty upset. I tried to keep myself in view of the theater while I walked around it, but he wasn't anywhere.
Some strangers even offered to get me an Uber.
Finally I went in and checked one more time, and he was sitting on a couch looking at his phone. I told him I'd been looking for him, but I wasn't blaming about it, but he got super defensive and told me it was my fault for not seeing him and I had no reason to be upset.
He kept saying, "I don't understand why you're so upset," on the car ride back.
When I tried to tell him that I wanted us to be more in sync with each other, especially since we're going on a trip out of the country soon, he scoffed and said, "Do I need to tell you where I'm going to be whenever we are separate?" Which felt unfair. I didn't have my phone. Plus, what if something happens to me? How long would it take him to notice? Am I overreacting?
I feel kind of angry now and still hurt.
Sorry, but kinda you're the asshole.
All you had to do was make a plan on where to meet each other.
Being upset, frustrated with your boyfriend isn't really fair in this case, and the whole need to be in sync with each other thing is just vague and meaningless.
Like, is he supposed to read your mind to guess where you will look for him? Just tell him.
If you're going to split up, just say, "Let's meet back here at X time." If you're going somewhere busy where you might get separated, then you say, "If we get separated, then just meet over by that tree," etc.
Plan ahead and communicate. Don't depend on being in sync. You are the asshole. Simple solution. Hey, wait for me by the front door while I use the bathroom. You were in a movie theater, not a war-torn, third world country, where you didn't speak the language. Rein in the dramatics. You are the asshole and a bit of a drama queen. Welcome to the world of pre-2000 where no one had cell phones and you made a plan to meet if something happened. Yes, you are overreacting. I don't think you are the asshole, just nervous and scared.
You are the asshole. You were running around trying to find him. He probably was doing the same. One of you finally figured out that if you both kept moving it, the chase could last all night. He stopped moving and sat down. You found him and you're mad. Okay. What would be more in sync with each other concretely mean from that situation?
Am I the asshole for telling my daughter she doesn't have to give up her headbands if she doesn't want to? I, 34F, have a daughter, whom we'll call Olivia.
Olivia is in first grade.
She has this classmate, whom we'll call Jake.
Jake is developmentally delayed and completely non-verbal. They were in the same kindergarten class, but the classroom setup was different, so I don't think they interacted much, but things are different this year.
This year, he's taken an interest in Olivia's headbands.
He doesn't pull hair or anything. He just likes to pat the bow part during carpet time, I guess.
And surprisingly, she doesn't mind at all.
Recently, he was having a bad day. Her words, not mine. So my daughter gave him her headband. The parent kept asking her if she was sure about it, and she insisted on giving it to Jake.
He was extremely happy about it, and now carries around the headband as a comfort thing. I told Olivia that what she did was very kind, but she doesn't have to give him anything else, if she doesn't want to. My husband is unhappy with what I told her.
He thinks that Olivia has plenty of headbands. She could spare a few to make this kid happy, and that we need to be teaching her to not be selfish. Am I the asshole for telling my daughter she doesn't have to give up her headbands, if she doesn't want to?
I'm not sure why you'd have to emphasize that she doesn't have to give him anything else. It seems the parent did this already. I would think the best thing would be to tell her what she did was kind. It's clear she didn't mind. Like she saw someone unhappy, and wanted to help them with something she believed could, and it did. This doesn't seem like the place to teach boundaries, because it doesn't seem like she had any apprehension or felt any obligation to share. She did it out of kindness. Not the asshole. Edit. My verdict is actually nah, which I didn't know was a thing. I can see where you were coming from with that lesson, but it's not the time to teach it.
Your daughter is good. Your husband is right, not because she has many headbands to share, but because she wanted to share.
Nah.
A parent can teach both. You're teaching her that it's not necessary to give her things away, that it's okay to just offer kind words and friendship. Her dad is trying to teach her not to be selfish, which is good but within reason.
It doesn't matter how many hairbands she has.
The point is to teach her that giving objects doesn't always fix everything.
She's very young and she'll eventually learn the difference. You both sound like great parents and she's such a sweet girl. Okay, she wasn't selfish. I think that's obvious. She gave him the headband because she wanted to and it made him happy.
He probably shouldn't be patting her head all the time, but since it seems to be gentle and she's okay with it, there's no problem. You're absolutely right, she does not have to give her headband up and she should know it. Girls are too often forced to do things they don't want to in the name of being good or kind or whatever, when a boy would not be forced to do the same thing.
I'm going to say your husband shouldn't be worried about her being selfish when she's obviously not. He should be concerned about her getting to have a choice in what she does, since having a choice is critical. Not the asshole.
No assholes here. I think they're both good lessons to teach a child and both need to be taught in moderation.
Kids should be taught to share and be kind, but not to hurt themselves in helping others.
Reddit will often tell you that you don't need to share blah blah, be selfish blah blah, but in my opinion your husband was probably more right in this circumstance.
Clearly your daughter was happy to give her headband, so why not encourage her to do something nice when it's really no harm to her? Not the asshole. Your daughter is very generous.
Generous little girls can often get taken advantage of.
Thank you for reminding her that it's her choice. And she can define the boundaries she's comfortable with.
It's not like you told her to never do it again, just to be sure it's her choice, not an expectation.
Olivia, it calmed him down last time. Give him another headband.
That's too easy to fall into for an easy, instant fix. But, in the long term, he doesn't need to learn to be entitled to people's stuff. And she doesn't need to learn she always has to sacrifice what makes her happy to placate others.
Edit to add not the asshole and clarity. Nope. Much better to teach your kid she has autonomy and agency. Am I the asshole for moving out alone and not with my stepsister and lying about where I'm going to college?
My dad and stepmom were both widowed when me and my stepsister, 18 female, were 5. They met a year later and became widowed parent friends, which I always believed they started dating like a year after my stepsister's dad died, but they don't want to be honest and say they moved on so fast, especially when they had kids. So we'd all hang out together during the day and we'd have late nights at each other's houses for a couple of years.
Even back then I struggled to get along with my stepsister. She was always a sensitive kid. She was shy, quiet, very delicate to any kind of negativity or being corrected. I'm quiet and introverted, so similar.
But I was supposed to be her best friend, said my dad, and to be gentle with her, be there for her, help her with stuff, make her laugh.
It was annoying back then, and when my dad and stepmom admitted they were dating, I really hated that I was now stuck with her. She stuck to me in school and would track me down and follow me around. My dad told me I should love having a sister my age.
I told him I didn't.
He told me to think about how great it could be. I told him I wanted to spend time with friends without her.
He said she was my best friend.
She never could make her own friends. She's very hard to get close to. She hardly talks. She'll talk if it's just us, but it's so painful. She never wants to do anything and just follows me around.
There were times I would leave and go spend time with friends and she'd cry and I'd get into trouble for leaving her. Then our half-siblings were born and it was a shit show.
I love my half-siblings. It was clear I loved them, but not my stepsister.
My stepmom made that a very big deal and told me I shouldn't love some siblings more than others, I should love everyone.
She also accused me of turning my half-siblings against my stepsister. But she never wanted to play with them or speak to them. Yet she would get upset when they favored me too. But mostly she hated that I favored them to her. I never wanted to spend time with her.
I always had to be forced to.
It showed.
That didn't help. Family therapy was quit after 4 months because my dad and stepmom didn't like that so much focus was put on helping my stepsister branch out instead of helping us come together as sisters. For 2 years my dad and stepmom and stepsister were planning for me and her to go to college together, to move out together so we could travel at the same time and settle in together.
I made plans behind their back with my grandpa.
And against their wishes I moved out in June and moved in with grandpa for the summer, and I'll be starting community college in this town when school starts back up. My dad finally found out. He and my stepmom were already pissed I moved out without my stepsister, and now they're pissed we won't be in the same school. Dad was pissed I lied to him for 2 years. I told him he left me with no choice.
Am I the asshole? NTA.
They shoved the responsibilities of what sounds like your stepmom's obviously very neurodivergent daughter onto you instead of working on helping her themselves.
You're 18 AMD, an adult. You are not responsible for looking after your stepsister as she goes to college. Not the asshole.
Not the asshole. It's your life. You're free to live it as you please.
Your father and stepmother certainly did. Best of luck.
Not the asshole your dad and stepmom made every possible wrong choice.
Your sister's happiness is not your responsibility.
Her emotional well-being is not your responsibility. They don't get to decide that she is your best friend. They even tried damaging your bond with your half-siblings because your stepsister didn't have things her way.
And what the hell was their possible endgame?
Go to college together? Pick the same majors? Live together the rest of your lives because that's what makes them all more comfortable. I feel bad for you both.
You were both neglected and borderline abused by your dad and stepmother in your own different ways.
At the end of the day, your last sentence summed it up perfectly. I told him he left me with no choice.
Not the asshole. I shouldn't love some siblings more than others, I should love everyone. Nah.
My dad and stepmom and stepsister were planning for me and her to go to college together, to move out together so we could travel at the same time and settle in together.
Lol. Getting away from family is half the appeal of college. Not the asshole. They seem to think you are an emotional support sibling.
You are 18.
You made your own adult choices.
Good for you.
I don't have children, but from the outside, it looks like your dad and stepmom don't understand how siblings work. Sticking two kids in the same house and telling them that they are now sisters doesn't seem like a solid plan.